Yo, how's it going, guys? It's Knight. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be discussing some of the tedious prerequisites required to run Furina, as well as her place in the meta and if you should pull her or not, as she is right around the corner waiting for your primo gems to be expended in order to have a chance at her. Obviously, if you pay attention to any other CCs, which I'm sure you do, she is touted as being one of the best units in the game, which she is very much so. She has a very nice knack for coalescing two different roles together, that being sub DPS and buffer, one of the few units to successfully do this. And if we were talking in terms of just power, I would say she is a must pull for everybody. However, there are some caveats I'd like to go over, and maybe even some difficulties that players may have with achieving her ceiling or her peak potential. So let's jump into it. The first area I'd like to discuss is comfort while playing Furina. Now, obviously, she comes with the inherent need for healing. Her entire kit relies heavily on health drain and health gain, ooh, rhyming, in order for her to increase the damage that your team deals. This obviously makes the scope of her teams a bit tighter because you'll have to slot a healer into her teams when constructing them. Now, there are some nuanced ways that you can go around this with specific weapons that I'm not going to mention because I still find this to be a bit uncomfortable for me and for maybe other players. And it's not simply the fact that you just need a healer. It's the fact that the best healers are the ones that would team-wide heal and not just single target heal. However, those characters are not optimal for her teams or are not the ones that you would use to reach her potential. Typically, we're seeing characters like Shalonin and Bennett being used with her, which offer more buffing potential. However, you need to switch through your teams in order to receive healing for them, as they are single target characters. This causes a bit of discomfort in her rotations. Now, is it the end of the world? Probably not, but it's at least worth mentioning. So you'll need to work on your rotation with her in order to touch these characters and receive healing from them if some of your characters are dropping low. Luckily, this is a game in which many units will be added, so just like with any unit, there's the chance that more healers will be released to add variety to the specific caveat. Something else to consider is that Furina's teams typically won't slot a shield. This is usually okay, however, she does have rather long animations that leave her vulnerable to being staggered. This isn't too much of an issue in regards to clearing content in time, more so it's an annoyance to have to deal with while playing her. Not to mention the rest of her teammates will also be shieldless due to preferring a healer in her comps, which raises the chances of all of her teammates being staggered. Something particularly important when considering which on-field unit to use with Furina. Obviously, your on-field unit will be the most vulnerable as they are the ones doing damage or requiring time on field to do damage, and any time that they get staggered, this will cause a slowdown in your clear time. These issues are somewhat made up for, though, when you consider that Furina's skill has essentially 100% uptime, which means constant damage and good hydro application to boot. She also requires no input from the player to execute her damage, which means her playstyle is pretty streamlined. Now let's discuss Furina's build requirements, which can be quite stringent and requires heavy investment to achieve maximum output. Furina is relatively straightforward to build, however she does require 3 different stats that can be painful to achieve a good balance of. This issue is only amplified if you are considering pulling for her signature weapon. I mean, you know it's not so straightforward when a lot of CCs just recommend using Fav or the Fontaine Pipe. That's what they called me in college. I don't know why I said that. Anyways. I'm not going to rant too long on this topic because every character in the game essentially has stat requirements they are looking to achieve with their build. However, Furina is going to need a high level of investment from her artifacts. She's not like some supports that allow you to use your scrap artifacts. She needs a good balance of crit stats, a good level of HP stats, and she needs adequate energy, so hopefully she can burst every rotation, which I find to be somewhere around 195% and up. Very high, big number. And like I mentioned before, if you're using her signature weapon, then your build may end up being a bit Frankenstein, since you'll have to account for the ER you would be getting from a different weapon. However, some of the offensive stats you receive from her weapon do help to alleviate some of the needs for other stats that you would be getting from a weapon like Fav or another ER weapon. One last thing to consider is that Furina was designed to use the Golden Troop set while also being the de facto enabler of the Maro Chusei set. I can't say that, so don't discredit my information because I cannot pronounce the French set. But you know what I'm saying. The evil French set was designed for Furina to drive, so she does have steep requirements in the sense that she has a entire ecosystem designed for her to enable and use. However, I don't feel like it's that important, especially with the release of Natlan and some of the powerful sets we've gotten in that region. I myself, I am not a particularly high user of the Maruchusei set, so your mileage may vary. It is something to consider though. Now, something I'm sure everyone wants to discuss is her meta aspects. Don't get me wrong, she is a meta-defining character. However, I think it's very important to address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the Hydro Dragon in the room. Furina's dominance can at least partially be attested to Neuvillette, as he is and has been the premier on-field Hydro carry. And guess who is perfect for him? Yes, take one guess. Yes, it is Barbara with Thrilling Tales. Surely. So obviously Furina does enable Neuvillette to reach his ceiling, and because of this, if you are a Neuvillette user, then yes, you should pull for her. Stop playing the video, you've got your answer. Actually, don't stop the video, I need the support. However, she isn't exactly required for many other comps. She is simply the Hydro off-field you would look to add to a team if you have the healing required to do so. Also, keep in mind that her Hydro application isn't as good as Xingqiu's or Yelan's, so certain teams would also prefer them. Or you could just use both of them, Xingqiu and Furina, or Yelan and Furina respectively. That works too, I guess. Although some of what I'm saying has been alleviated with the release of Xilonen and Furina's inherent synergies with her, not to mention the pure damage increase achievable from a core like Furina, Xilonen, and Bennett. I guess what I'm trying to say is, while she's very strong, she isn't exactly the most flexible unit, which I do see her being praised for often. While yes, you could theoretically run her in whichever team you want, you can also theoretically do that with any other unit in the game. My main concern is that most people looking to watch videos about a character are probably the types of players that are seeking to build very efficient or in most cases peak teams. I will say though, at the very least, even if she isn't the most efficient choice for a team, she will always be a powerful option to any team that you add her to, because of her damage boost, of course. One final note is that we are in Natlan, a region that seems to be almost catered to enabling Natlanese supports through the Cinder City set. Realistically, there could be a Hydro unit that is released that can utilize the Cinder City set to its fullest extent. This could serve as an alternative unit to Furina. However, this could also never happen, and Furina could be cemented as the premier Hydro buffer. This is just something to keep in mind. So, what are my overall opinions of this unit, and do I think you should pull for her? All of my previous points aside, she is a really good unit and will definitely increase the power levels of your account. If your primary goal is to clear the endgame, then she will be a large boon to you being able to achieve success in those game modes. She is an asset to any team that can utilize her Hydro application and damage increase, even if she isn't the best possible unit for every team. She has longevity due to her element typing being Hydro and the strength of Hydro in general, as well as the dominance we've seen with Pyro throughout the game's history. Her design is amazing. She has some of the most robust lore in the game. She is simple enough to use in combat with her permanent uptime in damage due to her elemental skill. Although just make sure you don't get punched in the face or you'll be staggered for a millennia. Joking aside. However, players should consider the discomfort when using her. If you're like me and you can't stand seeing your little green health bars being unfull, then this character will bother you. Because of this, she is not the most fun unit to bring along with you in the overworld since your HP will never be full. And I must be honest, I do occasionally find myself avoiding slotting her due to her health drain and the annoyance with seeing my health bars never being full. Overall though, I do recommend pulling for Furina, especially if the things that I previously mentioned aren't a deal breaker for you. They certainly weren't a deal breaker for me, and she has been an asset to my account, a unit in which I do regularly slot in the Spiral Abyss and who has helped to enable me to clear the Spiral Abyss with relative comfort and ease. Anyways, let me know if you have any questions or concerns or comments or reviews. I'll catch you in the next one. This has been Knight. Peace out.